Hello everyone, welcome back to the RV-14 project. Two things I'd like to get done today in this video is the torque tubes for the flap actuation system and the rollover structure. Feel free to join me as I get to work. So just a quick overview. These are the torque tubes. In the last episode I went over building or fabricating and installing these flat torque tube bushings blocks in there, and now it's time to get these torque tubes ready. That's going to include match drilling these holes on the center crank right here into here, clocking these correctly with this, and then also going ahead and shooting some primer down the inside of these tubes because the insides of them are not primed. So that's all that'll need to be done with these, and then obviously slid through those blocks and installed in the airplane. And the next thing, as I mentioned, that I'll be doing at the same time will be this rollover structure. It's just clecoed in at the moment, but to get this ready, that's going to include obviously taking it back out of the airplane, taking all these clecos out, deburring it, pre-drilling where necessary, and priming. And I will prime that at the same time that I prime the insides of these tubes. So to start, instructions want me to clamp down this on a flat surface, so I'll use this table, of course. And just need to double check. This piece, this is a guide to make sure that this is clocked correctly. I'll slide it on this way. Slide this into here. And then in order for this to work, I also need to just bolt this guide into the torque tube. Now I got the hardware here, and since these are powder coated parts, there's a little bit on the inside of the holes here that'll make the diameter of the hole slightly smaller, so I just need to final drill that. I think it's with a 1/4 inch bit, just to make sure that the bolt slides through properly and everything fits nicely. Now this bolt should nicely, like a glove, slide right in there. It goes bolt, torque tube, washer, alignment, washer, another washer, and nut. Only had to go back once to grab another size, so that's pretty good. I don't want to do this too tight because I don't want to pull these two flanges in, just enough to keep this special, or this guide or template, I guess, in place. There, just like that. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to hold this where it needs to be. Okay, I do need to adjust this a little bit so it's sitting there. We go. Full contact with the bottom edge like it says. Here we go. So this needs to be 23 inches and 5/16 away. From the edge here to the edge of here. Just want to make sure I have this perfectly flat and that this template is on the table enough so that I know it's going to be as close to square with this, or the angle is as close to what it needs to be as possible, which it is at the moment. And now I clamp it so it's tight to the table when I go to drill. I'll just double check my measurements. Right on the money, it looks like. So once I get this match drilled, I'll throw a cleco in there and hold it in place a better. There we go. I know at the beginning of the project, fabricating holes and stuff like this right at the beginning, for me anyway, it was definitely intimidating, but once you do it a few times and measure twice and only cut once, it turns out pretty good and it's always satisfying. So, all right, next one. Should be wearing safety glasses probably. Safety squint isn't always enough. I think I need new drill bits. These ones are pretty dull. Okay, that one's good. Throw another cleco in there. All right. So now that's clocked in the correct way, just got to do the other side. There. Ready to go in the airplane, except not quite. I believe the next step is upsizing it to number 12. So now I remove these clecos. Final drill these holes first to number 12. Run a bolt and some nuts through there, and then I do this one. I'm going to take it apart and deburr it and copy and paste on the other side. Deburr that real quick. Just using the bolts to help make sure everything stays straight while when I take the clecos out to drill the next one. All right, looks good. Drill the next one. So believe it or not, it's a couple days since I made the first part of this video. In that time, I went ahead and finished up these cranks, torque tubes, whatever you want to call them, for the flaps. Both of them are nicely drilled out and deburred. The next step is to prime the inside, and that'll just be done using the spray gun, spraying the inside. But before I do that, I want to get this rollover structure ready to go, and paint it, or deburr everything and prime it, so I can do it alongside those torque tubes, just to get it done as a package. So the reason why this is on here, obviously it's not ready to be assembled yet. There's still blue vinyl tape on some of the stuff. And, you know, it hasn't been deburred or match drilled. And for me anyway, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people building these airplanes. We like to just throw some stuff together like this, put it together just to see what it looks like, how it goes together, so that when the final assembly comes along and I rivet it together, it's just nice to see what it looks like and how everything goes together to make that whole process smoother, and just make sure the job is done as good as possible. Because obviously I'm looking for the highest standard build in this airplane, because it's an airplane. But yeah. There's not a whole lot of pieces on this that need to be prepped. There's not a bunch of awkward punched pieces with a bunch of stuff like this to deburr. Most of it looks pretty straightforward, so that'll be nice. That'll quicken the preparation process by a fair bit. A lot of time that goes into prep work. Probably about 60 to 70% of the work, maybe actually closer to 50, is just preparation, match drilling, deburring, final drilling, stuff like that, priming. And then the rest is actually assembly, riveting, bolting, whatever you're doing. So, with a little bit of editing magic, I'll time-lapse this so that you guys don't have to watch me take it apart piece by piece, regular speed. All the pieces. There's these straps that need to be prepared, the frame of the rollover structure as you saw right here, and this back support piece, and a couple of mounting brackets. I'm just gonna organize some stuff around here. I don't know about you guys, but I really like a organized workspace. Helps me think more clearly when I'm doing the work. Tends to help me do a better job as well, so I'll tidy up a little bit and then look at the instructions you get to work on this stuff. Alright, so now I got my space organized a little bit more, so much better. Take these pieces and start preparing them for assembly. Primer and then assembly. I'll keep some of them over here, but got the blueprints right here. First was to remove these. These were attached together, but that's already been done. I'm just going to go ahead and deburr them. So when I say deburr, all that means is there's sharp edges here from it being sheared from the rest of the aluminum. And so on one side, there's a sharp edge, my finger catches on them, it could cut me. And that's actually a weak point in the aluminum where these burrs are. And same thing with all these punched holes. One side it's quite rough and there's these little burrs that catch. So all you got to do for the holes, for example, is take a tool like this. It's got a little cutting blade on it, or bit. You just go along each hole on each side, do one circle, one revolution, just to put a bit of a chamfer, I guess, in there, whatever you call it. Smooth it up. And that's on both sides of every single hole. So even on skins where there could be hundreds of holes, you do each side, and it can be pretty, what's the word? Tedious, but needs to be done, and nothing that's a music or a podcast or something can't get you through. So, and then like I said, there's the edges as well. And I just take, you can do sandpaper, use a belt sander like that, or just a Scotch-Brite pad or a Scotch-Brite wheel. I don't happen to have a Scotch-Brite wheel, so I'm going to use a combination of just sandpaper and a Scotch-Brite pad to smooth and round these edges and corners. So all I've got here is some 150 grain sandpaper. If there's a more aggressive burr, guy can smooth it out really easily. Also makes the part look really nice and feel really nice. So I just go across the edge kind of on an angle, like if you're using a file or something. Go around all the corners, feel it up, see if you'll cut or catch your finger on anything. And if it feels nice and smooth and there's no sharp edges, it's good enough. And then follow up with something like a Scotch-Brite pad. This is what a new one looks like. As you can see, I've gone through this one quite a bit, but still good to use. Always feeling it, making sure not missing anything. Running my finger along the edges. And then I'll get in here as well where these relief cuts were made for when these flanges were bent up. And for that, it's still sandpaper folded in a circle or put into a roll, or a Scotch-Brite pad, or even a small file, small round file like this, just to get in those curves, make a really nice finish on these edges. Go along everything. All feels good to me. Visually looks good as well. Now I'm just going to scuff up the surface a little bit in a bit of a cross pattern, up and down one way and then across the other way. That's just for priming. Helps give a nice surface for the primer to adhere to. Now that that's done, I'll grab a Sharpie and write deburred on it so that I know that it's well deburred. And I can set it off to the side and do the next one. And if you're wondering if I can see this marker after I prime it, I can. The primer that I put on this airplane, or that's this type of primer anyway, it's a very thin coat. It's just to protect against corrosion. And I'll find a piece here that I can show as an example. The marker that's on here, you could say deburred is right here, left, right, forward, all that. That was written before this piece was primed. And so you can still, the part number there, you can still see it very clearly. And that goes for all the rest of the parts in the tail and the airplane stuff I built. You can still see that marker on the inside underneath the primer. So it still makes it really nice for referencing even once it's primed. You know, cross-referencing the part number on the blueprints and everything. You can still see the part number when you write it down. You can still see it. It's easy to identify things. But anyway. There's a pile of parts here now, deburred and pretty much ready to go. All these holes here I haven't deburred yet because those all need to be match drilled with these strap things right here. These need to be dimpled and they will need to be fluted with this tool right here. These are just stiffeners that, how does this go? This is the right one. They sit up along here, strengthen that. But they need to be dimpled, fluted to follow that curve properly. There's some more pieces here that I deburred and prepped off camera. There's nothing different about it. It's the same process as all of this stuff. But these are deburred, ready for priming. These are ready for priming as well, I believe. This is ready. This just needs to have a couple of things dimpled and it's ready for priming. So if I just come over the instructions, I want to try and get all these pieces primed right away, or all in one batch I should say, so that once they're done primed, I can just go ahead and install everything at once. Looks like I got all the parts. Yeah, so this is already done. As you can see, this needs to be dimpled up here. These 6 holes right along here. The top flange of these gussets, whatever you want, whatever you call them, attach brackets, braces, need to be dimpled because they sit obviously up here up against the dimpled skin. So these still need to be dimpled. What else is there? So I think for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on dimpling this. These flanges, I'll set these to the side for now. I'll set these to the side. These can actually get primed right away. Those are ready to be primed, I mean. What else was there? I think this needs some countersinking done. Yeah, countersinking right there. All along these flanges, I believe. Well, I think I'm gonna call it for this video. It's already starting to get long and I think I've gotten most of what I wanted to get done. Next, what I'm planning to do is, as I mentioned just a few minutes before, it's going to be countersinking the main rollover structure pieces, along with match drilling all those holes with those straps that go on the inside of those rollover pieces, along with finally priming them and letting that cure, and then riveting those pieces into the airplane. The most exciting part all the time is always, once those parts are prepped, it's getting in the airplane and seeing its final form. So looking forward to that, looking forward to sharing it, and thanks for following along.